Yeah.
I call this meeting of the Parks and Rec Commission to order. Could we have a roll call of members, please? Stephanie, sorry. We could go.
Larry Allen.
Excellent.
Okay, Stephanie Shaw.
Aaron Wines.
Mike Dietz.
Heidi Fletcher.
Sadie Cosa.
We're all talking to the damn camera.
Yeah. So, Elizabeth is the only one that's missing, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And as far as I know, she had not reached out and let us know that. All right, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as was distributed?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the agenda as submitted is approved. The approval of the minutes, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting on May 21st?
I'll make a motion. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, oh, good. She said she will be here?
No, not going to, just for
Okay.
not going to be.
Okay. Thank you. We're done with that. There are no public hearings or special presentations, as there's no, are either of you like to take a public comment while you're here? No? There is no correspondence. That brings us to unfinished business, 2026 events, programming updates. The one I missed, I was disappointed I couldn't go. The Little Explorers rock painting, I was just curious. How do they get a good turnout? What do you think?
Yeah, I think about like 30 kids or something
Okay.
like that.
It was fun,
Yeah,
good event.
a lot better than our painting last year. We were actually able to use the colors and stuff.
Well, because we did watercolors
Yeah,
last
that-
year, right?
We definitely need to practice that more on that.
Yeah, I thought everybody had fun.
Yeah, we had a lot of people out in the park after,
Okay.
so,
That's what we're looking for.
yeah.
We did 53 people at the kayaking.
That's excellent.
We actually set up a phone
Yeah.
and it was kind of like Applebee's. And we would say, what kind of kayaks do you, it was very similar. I mean, you used the analogy, yeah.
Did I? Oh, it's
Yeah.
very smart analogy.
Yes, it was a good one. And we would actually call people. We had a list of maybe 15 or 20. And we would call them as the kayaks came in.
Like your kayaks ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, and not a single group didn't answer their phone.
Oh, wow, so you're texting them?
No, we were
No, we were
calling.
calling.
Oh, call.
You know, and
Still.
it worked out really well.
Did everyone like it?
Yeah.
That tried it?
We only had 53 complaints.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
only kidding, no one complained. I mean, it seemed to be a good, because we moved it, it seemed to, we had guaranteed people foot traffic, so,
Yeah.
you know, it worked well.
And people were very patient with waiting. Like, they were totally like,
Yeah.
hey, this is great, you're offering this, we're good.
Yeah, but I won't say that it was too much, I talked to Sarah, and I wouldn't say that there was too much kayak education going on. I will say we were, if it's an education event, there wasn't much education going on. We were so busy keeping people that nobody could do, but I just want
I assume if somebody was uncomfortable that they got the help they needed.
Yeah, and we put a lot of people into tandem kayaks too, so we had a familiar with an unfamiliar, and that helped a lot. So.
Excellent. All right, the next one up is next week, a week from today, right? Bats in our backyard, your backyard. I think there's a discrepancy between the signs I made, which I'm assuming I made the mistake, and what GDL is publishing, who is providing the people from Seven Ponds Nature Center. But it doesn't matter that much. We have 41 people registered at this point to attend. I imagine we'll have people come that aren't registered, so it should be a good turnout. 6 o'clock at the wooden playground. It's our first event with Seven Ponds, so I'm excited to see how it goes. And our first event using GDL, which was nice. They made it very easy. After that is August 6th, another little Linden Explorers event, and we're gonna pair with the library board on that one, is it?
Yeah.
How do you,
So, I'm still timekeeping things. I thought you said something about how they were having the event.
yeah, they're pretty much the library board, like a day or two, within a day or two of our event, was gonna have an event at the park for kids. So I talked to someone on the library board, and they agreed to combine their event with our event to make it a kid event that we both
Okay.
advertise and support. So what they're doing is, well, they have that story walk around the boardwalk, so they're having a new story go out there. I think it's about how you can use your talents, creative talents to do different things in your life, I believe. So they're looking for, at each of these pages, maybe to have somebody there demonstrating or talking about what they do. Like Larry and his woodworking, for example, could be something that he might be there with some stuff and sharing the tools and say, this is what I do, this is the kind of cool things that I make. And then when they swing around after their walk, they're gonna come to the pavilion where they're gonna have little blank books and markers, so they can then draw and write and create their own little story, take that story.
That's actually,
That's
yeah.
good.
So it's still August sixth.
It's still August sixth, they changed their date to join ours,
Oh, that's
because we'd
good.
already published.
Okay.
And they're going forward with that. I think they have a good plan, and we'll just look for them to tell us how, and
Yeah, maybe we'll just do
We
a
can help
group
them.
email and try to figure out logistics.
we'll certainly help publish it. And they're working on more events too, more youth and reading related events. And that brings up our last one. It was on September 17th, but we moved it to the 24th, just to make sure everybody's aware of that. That's the kayaking and Gilmore Girls event. I'm excited for the kayaking one. I really hope that we can get a good draw from the senior community, which is what I believe we're aiming for that night. And I don't know anything about Gilmore Girls, so I can't speak to that. But as far as you know, everything's good to go, right, for the kayaking?
I don't want anybody to realize I'm talking on camera. I am in charge of that, correct?
I believe so.
Okay, so, okay. I'm not exactly sure what we need to do. We need to talk to Shiawassee River Shuttle. You wanna concentrate on the older population this time, so I need to make a visit here, and then maybe charter and others? Is that what the logic is?
I think there was some discussion of Shiawassee Shores, of focusing there, right? Maybe even having a shuttle. I don't know if you are aware if anything has.
I don't know if there has been any further discussions, Larry, but you can certainly reach out to Tessa, we can reach out to Shiawassee Shores, we can help you guys with that. If Charter Senior Living is one that you guys would like to involve, we have a good relationship with them through LOSI and stuff, so wherever we can help, we'll try to help, and we'll try to help facilitate those conversations between Tessa and Kristen and all of us, so.
Well, okay, so we've got charter, we also have symphony, symphony, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what skill level, is it worth it for me to go to symphony? Do the residents there have the skill level that we need to put them in boats? It's, for some reason, I'm thinking symphony is a little bit.
Do they have an independent living area? Because I would say that if someone's not
I
an
have
independent
never-
living, I don't think that they.
I've
would be
never been in
capable.
symphony, I'm sorry for interrupting, but I've never been in symphony, so I guess I'm just gonna go in and knock.
We also have a really good relationship with the manager down there as well, and she attends like our Grove Linden. We can certainly extend the offer to them, and if they feel that they have, individuals who maybe are at that level or can, they can provide staff and maybe come down to the event and stuff. We can
Yeah.
kind of talk through that with them, but maybe let them make that call. If our goal is to reach the senior population and those, then maybe we just extend the offer and let them make that call amongst
That's
themselves.
probably the best.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, what I'd like to do is if we're gonna talk transportation, I'd like to use that as a grab on them to say, we will offer you transportation.
yeah. Charter does have a bus, and we can work with MTA as well, to be able to get charters for you, for that event, I think.
MTA, is that something,
Mass Transit Authority.
is that someone I approach, or is that someone I talk to someone in the city and they approach?
We can help with that conversation, we can,
Alright.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Shiawassee Shores.
Is there gonna be a sign-up genius like there, or however, like there has been for the other events?
I think there should,
We've had really good success with that, so
I agree.
I would think, I don't
So
know,
if like you did a flyer, sorry, in the, Shiawassee Shores Clubhouse, and maybe hang one at Charter and Symphony? And then they would know how to sign up possibly, or have someone
I
help
think
them?
my father-in-law would tell me that you get your best just hits of people in Chelsea shows if you put it in the little mailroom building.
Oh,
Those
okay.
4 or 3, yeah.
Okay.
I actually would like to go there and see if I can hit a community meeting. You know what I'm saying? And say, my name's Larry, we're offering kayaking. And that way, it'd be nice to schedule the facility certain times. 1 to 2, if we can do that, 1 to 2 there, here, 2:15 to 3. And if we can get a third facility, that way we're not driving all over trying to pick these.
that might
places up.
make it easier too, on
How
whatever
long is the
transportation you're
event
using, that you
for?
could just have one.
How long is the event planned for? What's the schedule?
Well, I mean, the event hasn't been planned, so we can talk about it. 3 hours, 4 hours?
Typically it were 2.
2. I honestly, Mike, don't think that's long enough. I mean, especially with transportation needs. But as we've learned in the past, not all of us have to be at all the events. And Sarah does run a tight machine, so if we can get the people there, Sarah pretty much, we can take a hands off with it, and we start passing flyers out and pumping city stuff. I think the first thing we need to do is figure out if we have transportation, and then I can go to the other facilities that don't and offer that and say, we can schedule you, you know, we'll do 1 pickup from each facility in 3 hours, how's that? If I can get 3 facilities, we can vote on it or however the system works, but 2 hours is a bit short, unless we don't get anybody, and then 2 hours is yeah.
I think another thing that we're gonna have to look at, just from the safety standpoint though, is when you do go to the facilities, that there's gonna have to be some sort of baseline physical requirement for the people.
Well,
We have, just let me finish.
yeah, I'm sorry.
We do have the handicapped accessible, but the ability to get in to the kayak and the ability to maneuver the kayak, and I don't wanna, like, not make anybody eligible for it, but, I mean, you know as well as I do that sometimes they aren't always maybe as physically adept as we would like them to be to do things. So, I mean, I
Not
think,
getting out of it.
I'm not so worried about Shiawassee Shores, what I'm more concerned about is Symphony and Charter.
Yeah, I don't know what those residents.
Maybe a good thing to ask Sarah, maybe, how would she describe the minimal mobility requirements to do it?
Or maybe we should just keep it simple, Sam, and only go to 1 facility. If we can get enough at Shiawassee Shores, why do we wanna
Right.
complicate it? You know, so maybe we should concentrate in 1 area. But if they can't get in, and then they go out, there's gonna be a huge problem getting them out. Because they're gonna be
That's why-
worn out, you
That's
know,
why
so-
I'm recommending, I mean, when you have the handicapped accessible launch, someone that's gonna use that is physically usually capable of using the handicapped accessible launch independently or with minimal assist. But if we have someone that we get in and then we can't get them out,
Well, and then that opens up, I mean, liability issues
Right.
for us individually, for the city,
Well,
for Sarah.
that kind of brings us full circle, and that's what I was gonna say before. Sarah is binding the insurance, so it's actually all on her name. So that's the reason why I wanted to see if we could, you know, she's assuming a lot of responsibility here. Especially, you know, when we did it Memorial Day, it's a younger crowd. Now we're actually focusing on getting the older population in those boats. So now there's a lot more responsibility here. Just really quickly, I think if we concentrate here and at Shiawassee Shores, maybe that would be enough.
I think so.
You know, I think we need to keep it a little bit simple the first time, and then we can add on as we need to.
Well, if we back up a little bit, so the other factor with time is that it's September, and by the time it's 8 o'clock, 8:30 at night, unless we're moving it earlier in the day, which then is possibly a conflict for us work-wise, getting out to helping people. But how many people realistically, let's say in a 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour window can you accommodate? Because I would actually say, since LoC is part of the city, and this is a city event, the people, that are coming here, maybe start with that and then move out from there. Like, what's the overlap of people that are at Shiawassee Shores that also
That's
are
true.
members here? Because, like, if we, like, what is the, realistically, like in that, how long did that event go on Memorial Day?
What was it, 12 to 2?
You started a little early, right?
We started early
So it's
because
like a-
people walked up.
Right, so it was like, but so it was like a 3-hour window,
It was about 3 hours.
and you got 53 people.
Yes.
So we're looking at, in this case, maybe 12 to 15 per hour, if you're really thinking, because you're talking about not a family of 4 with, you know,
Right.
11 and 12-year-olds, you're talking about people that, you know, are gonna probably need more time. So I wonder if you think about it if we think about it that way, and then build out from low-C interest and then Shiawassee Shores. Like, I feel like that would be
Yeah, that's a good idea.
probably more manageable.
I agree with that. I think that we'll get a crossover to Shiawassee, a sleigh crossover into Shiawassee Shores, and it will save me a heck of a lot of footwork. So if I can come in here and talk to Tessa, we can organize it here. So,
But you might get enough people, I don't know, how many people are members at low-C roughly?
Oh, jeez, I don't know what the membership is off the
You
top
should
of
know
my
that,
head,
just-
but I should be able to rattle it off. But since the first of the year, we've had like 11 or some unduplicated visits through here. Now, that includes trips, that includes
Sure.
all the different things that we do, there are not people that, you know.
But you might get 53 people. Do you think it's, from your own opinion, just obviously not binding, but would you say that you could probably, if it was focused on here, you'd get 45 people interested? Do you think?
I do think it's a possibility, definitely. I think if you have, the advertising and we can, you know, communicate it out to the membership, then I definitely think it's a possibility.
I honestly don't know if we can do 45 people in 2 hours. Get people in boats, out on the
Right, I'm
water.
just saying, whatever,
Yeah.
15 an hour.
Yeah,
Whatever you decide,
you know,
or
maybe
whatever you
that's a way
decide.
to think about it. I need to talk to Sarah and see how many butts we can put in boats. And then we can go from there. Because really, I think it'll be an hour to an hour and a half turnaround time on each load that we do. So maybe we should only concentrate on less than 30 people. Two trips is, you know,
And I think it would be better to have, if you had 30 people that had a really good patient experience, where they didn't feel rushed.
yes.
Like, I'm thinking about like my mom. My mom is 77. Hi, Mom. She's 77, and if she felt at all rushed, it would be something she'd never do again. So I wonder if keeping it more simple, and then we can see how it goes, and if it's this great banger event, then next time we could look at building it out from there, but I think I would keep it.
So
And
like-
Sarah, one last thing.
Yeah.
I definitely think on whatever materials we put together for it, it should say, something about minimum requirements of like based on what Sarah thinks, what a person should be able to do.
Oh, yeah, physical
Physically.
ability.
Yeah,
Touch their
however,
toes.
however you wanna put it,
You know,
I
I don't
don't know,
know, get down on the ground and stand up again.
you know.
My mom can't.
Yeah, no, that's, yeah.
Not without a chair.
And that's a good thing for them too, because you don't want somebody to come that has a misunderstanding of what is required, gets out in the middle of the river and then is embarrassed or uncomfortable, and it's a horrible experience for them because they didn't realize, like my mom didn't realize until the first time she went kayaking, that it is not the same as getting in a canoe. It is a different experience, so.
So I think we need to start with maybe 2 trips from here. Nothing else. Does that sound about, 2 trips, we'll shoot for 30 people, 15 each trip. We'll go
If,
for,
if we're going from here, I mean, people are mobile that come here, should we just have them go to the launch?
Is it the launch by the mill or
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
one behind? Okay.
well, they have that option.
I don't know, I'm just throwing it
And
out
then
there.
parking might be a little tight over there.
Yeah, by then they'll have the parking, or the new area done.
No,
September 20th, no?
I wish it would be more towards the end of October, I think that we could, yeah, it wouldn't, I can't count on that at all.
Well, just to clarify, so the mill is scheduled to be done at the end of October, and then there is water main and parking lot work that has to happen, so.
I'm talking about the new pad they're putting by the gazebo. I
They
heard
have
that-
to- Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That'll be done by, you guys know about that?
That should be done before the end of August.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
I don't need to discuss anything more, I think we got it covered on that,
Just
right?
reach out to Tessa and you guys can start.
I'm sorry?
Reach out to Tessa,
I'll talk, is she here tomorrow?
should be, yep.
I have tomorrow off.
There you go.
Deal with it tomorrow. And I'll let you guys, I'll let Mike know what, and, cool, I think we're all right.
Okay. And the Gilmore girls, do you have any,
No updates
Thoughts,
as of
or-
this, not yet.
okay,
I was even thinking for that, I was gonna help you with it. I saw something at Painting with a Twist where they they knitted a blanket, like American flag blanket with, their hands, not with like knitting needles. So I thought maybe that would be something fun to look into for people that don't know how to knit. Maybe somebody could come in and teach them. Then they did it within a few hours at that.
you
Oh, wow.
use yarn?
Yeah.
Yeah, they use the big chunky yarn.
Yeah.
instead of using needles.
Yeah, and they just had a table set up and they made this Americana blanket. It was before the 4th of July. I was like, oh, it's really, I wish I would've seen that earlier. I would've went and did it. It seemed like it'd be fun and go with the America 250 and you don't have to know how to knit to do it. You could just do it without just your hands.
It's just like type.
Yeah.
Just like,
All right, okay, I'll let you guys,
Okay, yeah, so I
percolate
can,
on
if
that.
you want, I can call up there or something and,
I'll touch base with you.
okay.
The next, item on our agenda is Parks and Rec Plan Objectives and Goals, which, was included in the package that came out. I struggled to find it. I had made a version of it that was sorted differently, but everybody has it the way that it came in the package, so we probably should go through it in that way. I'm gonna ask you, Aaron, just if you could give an overview of what you're looking for as we look through these, because I know that you were a strong advocate for, bringing Don and Ellen in.
yeah, I thought it would be helpful to just, because obviously like the Parks and Rec goals and objectives are bigger than just the Parks and Rec Commission. And I guess I thought it might be helpful to just take a minute or so of going through these and kind of identifying, I guess ultimately with the goal of looking at which of these might not be currently being met that we as a commission in particular ought to be looking at ways to meet. And just briefly looking at, okay, we've got renovate, improve where possible and appropriate, expand existing and future parks and rec facilities. I guess maybe briefly looking at what, if any, is our role in that, or maybe it isn't, and that's beyond us as a commission. Just so at the end of it, we could have an idea of what we're doing, what we're meeting, which obviously we can kind of do on our own, but what we're meeting, and then more importantly, what gaps there are that maybe we as a commission ought to be doing, but we're not. That was kind of it. Because I know last fall when we looked at this, I found it a bit overwhelming, and I think it was mainly because I read this and it felt like it was like expected that we as a commission were going to become responsible for all these things, but in reality, this is the responsibility of the city as a whole, and we are simply a component of that. So I kind of wanted to parse out that.
So, should we just walk through it the way it's presented in the plan?
Yeah, that's,
That's
I mean,
enough.
I'm not the only one here, so it's up to you guys too,
And
right?
maybe we could, as we look at those, think on that element, what role might we have in it? Like on the second one, development of the Eagles Wooden Park as a community park, making various park improvements. Maybe our role could be, to audit and identify necessary on some periodic basis, but what would be expected of us as for any of these? So the first one is a high level one, as we spoke of, renovate, improve, and where possible, expand existing and future parks and recs facilities, so.
I guess mine's not ordered the way yours is.
Yeah, mine is in there.
Right here.
I thought I just
For
printed it out.
goal, and then they're going through the objectives, though.
Okay. So the goal on develop a recreation system within the city of Linden, which will provide for a full range of recreation and open space needs for city residents. In my opinion, in the last few years, there's been a few things that have happened that I think fall into this category. Obviously, the State Bank Trail is something that meets several of the goals that are in here. My understanding is that should be wrapped up in August, and it should be open for business at that point. So that provides some certain recreation needs between the different communities. We have, you guys as a group have started new sort of field programs with kayaking and the kite projects and stuff that you had that I think are meeting a different range of individuals. And then the things that are occurring here at LOSI, I think, also touch in that area where there's activities and events here for the senior population. So the open space needs is probably a little more challenging, because obviously you have to have open space that is available, and you have to have the money to acquire that open space, and then not only acquire it, but develop it. We've done a couple things at Eagles Wooden Park. And this comes up a little later, so we can talk about it then too. We did put in all new ADA fall protection this spring, so that's been taken care of. We've made several repairs to the structure. I had staff paint the peaks on the structure, which were really kind of weathered and sun beat. So that's been freshened up to some degree. If you've been there recently, you probably noticed that we utilize a bunch of millings from the East Broad Street program or project, and that was always just kind of a headache of a lot. Dirt, really dusty, it always washed out. So we were able to use the millings there, and still sort of like a gravel lot, if you will, but I think it's a little more accommodating at this point than it was previously. One of the things I've talked about in the past, obviously it's a city and council decision, is there the property, Fairview Cemetery has a lot more property than probably many of you think. It actually goes out behind some of the houses, and there's a connection out to Silver Lake by the senior facility, and then there's also another connection off of Ripley Road. So it does pull in behind many of those houses. I think the community may have the opportunity to do park in that area. Obviously that forfeits expanding the cemetery to a larger cemetery, but if I had to guess the needs of the community, there's still plenty of space in the cemetery, and I think it would be nice to have a park on sort of that end of the community, if that makes sense, serving Saddlebrook and some of the neighborhoods over in that area, and making a nice connection on Ripley there. It will certainly be controversial, because the residents that live there are used to just sort of having vacant property all around them, and there's trails in there where you can see kids that are aware of it, or locals that are aware of it are utilizing it. We went out a few years ago and staked the corners, just so we had a general idea of where everything was, and just to sort of remind the residents of, hey, this is city property here. There is some dumping and brush hauling and sort of those kinds of things that are happening over there. So we just wanted to remind them. But anyways, I think that also sort of falls into this category of a possible option. And at that point, it would just be development dollars, not acquisition dollars. So.
I think that's great. And I remember you talked about the wooden playground when you were here last time. But for consideration, as I went through these, I found 7 of them that I felt had this flavor to them, where they said, improve the parks, add more things, improve accessibility to the parks with bike racks and restrooms, locate needed recreational facilities, locate needed facilities to complement the strategy for neighborhoods, promote attractive living. So there's 7 things, and you have a great idea, but what are we supposed to do? What could we possibly do? And I think I may be looking more at Ellen on this, or this group. I mean, we're not gonna go out and buy property, we're not gonna go out and clear land and turn it into a park, we're not gonna go out and buy bike racks and install them. What ought we be doing in the reference of these types? And if, I sort of, I'm changing the direction here, so if you don't wanna, if you wanna go through these one by one, we still can. I'm just telling you, there's 7 of them in here that speak to facilities, and when we get to the next 6, well 5, because the first 2 are on the facilities category. We could just skip them, I guess, if we can remember.
Is the floor still mine?
Yes.
I think there's a couple things this board could do. The first would be determine, let's go back to the property, determine if that's a desire of the community and the council. If it is, I would recommend that this board organize a charrette and have the community come in and talk about, okay, what kind of uses would the community like to see? Because that's what's gonna drive your budget, obviously, depending on what they wanna see or not. You know, you're gonna have to consider things like connectivity. So are the connections gonna be pathways only? Or are we gonna be including driveway accesses and those kinds of things? A lot of that's just gonna be driven on what use is gonna be appropriate there, based on the feedback you get. So, I think that'd be the best place to start before you can start getting an idea of what kind of budget you would need and what kind of pushback you're gonna get and all of those things. But the only point of bringing it up is the property is there, it does belong to the city at this point, and you know, I think that would be the least expensive option that you have available, at least at this point. So.
Where are the entrances to the property at?
So you would never see them, quite honestly. They just look like people's yards.
Okay.
So there is one off of Silver Lake Road. As you sort of get out of the curve and start heading in straight into Fenton, it's down on the left side, going in between homes there.
Okay.
And then on Ripley Road, it's a little, it's in the dirt section of Ripley Road. And it's, I think, right about when you start getting up to where the pavement starts again.
Where is that saving?
Probably just looks
I
like
would just
woods.
like to go walk it.
I'm just
to
curious
go
how
look
big
at
it is, because I mean, I was always taught growing up, like, when you're in a cemetery, you have to be quiet, and I can't imagine putting a park next to a cemetery. Like, but I don't know how close it is, or how, you just put a fence up.
You know,
I pulled it up on Batch. If y'all would like, I can,
Yeah, that's what I was doing, just
Okay.
visual.
I think that's, going back to the noise part of it, is trying to determine what kind of park use we would make it, not necessarily a playground park, but is it more of a nature
Walking. Oh, okay.
park where, you know, you can do bird watching and identifying and those
okay.
kind of things?
A passive park,
Yeah.
they generally call
Just
them.
kind of,
It's
let's get people
utilized
out.
in that capacity as it is
Yeah.
now, you know, like you'll see a lot of people in the evenings and stuff like that, walking, just walking, so.
the red outline.
Oh my.
I'll check that out,
That's
'cause I
huge.
don't
Is
know.
that, I have a question on that, is that an area that is sprayed by the city
It's
of
a
Linden
bigger area than my
mosquitoes,
little
you
sketch
know? The
Okay.
Yeah.
mosquito coverage is there?
I think that would include mosquito coverage, I don't know how far back they go on that parcel
Okay,
though, you
I'm
know,
just
but,
like a question for people, for
Yeah.
enjoyment of it,
yeah,
to go back there.
but they are spraying, you know, that is part of the
Okay.
contract. Is entire city limits, but, so, and I think all of this is part of the conversation leading up to your parks plan expires in 2027, and this is something that you're gonna wanna be thinking of when we move into that, next phase, where we would probably host Adam or someone like Adam to come in and, as Don said, you know, host some charrettes and things like that, and gather some feedback from the public and stuff, but you guys can start maybe thinking about, hey, these are some things that we're like, we think need to be, changed or amended in the next plan, or these are some things that we would like to see added, and one of those being like some green space or passive park added to the back of that.
I'm sorry.
And
Yes.
these are the kind of things we think should continue, and this is what we ought to be doing, which we aren't. We sort of like drifted from one, here's your mission statement, to another through the years, and
When I
mostly,
look down through this, I mean, I feel like you guys are hitting a lot of the, goal and objectives, and you guys have really made some advancements on that. Like, for instance, signage and things like that. Don's been working on signage, and that's a collective effort that you're gonna have with
Green outlines,
Mhm.
the-
DPW
the
staff and
problem.
city staff, right?
Things are ready,
Um,
yep.
And so those
And
are
then,
the
like, you're
accesses out to
taking
the
advantage of
areas, so that
regional
they're
recreation
in the
programs and
area.
things, like Southern Lakes, you're already doing
Is
that.
there a certain
Genesee
piece that
County,
you're
Parks and
looking
Rec, you guys
at
supposed to
for-
Well,
pay event with them. You're
Essentially,
doing
it's,
stuff with those
it would be this,
CGL, so I
I
think you
believe,
guys are already
Okay.
this
doing a lot of
cemetery
this
is
stuff,
all
right? And I
developed
think
and
it's
plotted all the way to
developing.
this
It's
back
on
road.
And isn't it
On the
also true
backside
that,
of this road.
and if
we
I'm
have
thinking of
some
this
exit
incorrectly,
ways and stuff, but,
tell
so
me,
it would generally
that
be.
And Matt.
this
Okay.
document
Okay.
is like an umbrella document for the city, and we are one piece of that. Like, some of these things, we may not have any role. Like, I'm not going out and pitching to get subdivisions brought.
Well.
Right,
you-
so that's something for
again,
Adam as he is
Right,
there's a
so-
lot
reviewing
of
things on the
agencies
planning
in there. I don't
commission
know how
level and
many
things like
years it
that,
would take
like,
to fill it,
you know,
but
are we being
something
mindful of that,
considered.
or is it so
And I'm
relevant?
hoping
I don't
we
know, I mean,
leave a buffer,
I think a lot of this stuff
you
is a
know,
lot of
between the
carryover from
cemetery
previous
and
plans
the
that have
park.
been in place for many, many
So
years,
it's
right?
not like you're gonna throw it,
But certainly subject to change if the board feels like it.
Frisbee
But to your point, it's kind of an umbrella thing, but I think it's a great conversation, like, you guys can be like, hey, where are we at? Are we really being mindful of green space? Like, as a parks board, you don't necessarily, like you said, have to be directly involved with it
Right.
and steering it, but just conversations, I think, so.
and another family of objectives that's in here, like facilities, is paths.
Mhm.
So, we don't own the paths, but I kind of think we own a lobbying role, like we would have a lobbying role for this park at the surplus cemetery land, or the unused cemetery land, let's say. Likewise, I think we should have an understanding of what paths we don't have and wish we did, and lobby the city for a correction there. Like, for example, the West Broad Street, Silver Lake Road, where the bike path crosses the street. I hate that. The speed limit there is 45 miles an hour, and we're asking kids to cross the street without a light. We're over here, we have a light, and it's 25. So, yeah, there's things that I think that we could be advocating for and reminding the city that we don't have this yet, and we still want it, that we aren't doing. So that, I think that's another family of activities in here that currently I think we're falling short on. Probably because we never understood clearly that we were meant to be doing that.
In regard to that pathway, I think going into the future with the trailhead, trailhead being at Triangle Park, I think the city would want to consider putting, moving bike traffic to Hickory rather than Broad. Just a lot less traffic, quite honestly. And-
Coming from the east.
Correct, and make that your connection to the downtown rather than bringing the bicycles down to Broad. And in addition to the connection to your downtown, it also gives you a connection on Southbridge down to the county park and trail down on that end of things too.
No, I think that's great, and it gets you all the way to Taco Bell.
Yeah.
And then you're sort of like, what do we do now?
Sidewalks.
Yeah, but and it is, that's the safest thing for kids to do, is to stay on that narrower sidewalk until you get to where it becomes a multi-purpose path at the city limits. So again, I didn't mean to change the tone of this discussion. Do we want to keep going? Look for opportunities to acquire land. I think I talked to Don or somebody about, there's some land that I know an older gentleman owns that would be really cool if the city owned it, but I think he has younger kids, and I imagine that's where it's going. But I don't know if we ever have, like, if something came up, would we be ready to jump? I mean, isn't gonna, especially land on the river, isn't gonna sit around and wait for us to find funds. So I don't know if maybe,
I feel like those are all case by case, you know, I think as the opportunity comes up, that's something that, you know, staff would bring to, or you all would bring to staff's attention, and we would then have to have a conversation with the, make a recommendation to the city council, and ask for their, you know, recommendations, move forward with it, or, you know, enter into negotiations and things like that. I think that there was a big, I think that this is also part of the, wanting to get a pathway to, from the gazebo area underneath the bridge, in that capacity. Cause if I understand right, they built that bridge underneath to be able to accommodate some type of pathway. And so there was some discussions in the years past about, acquiring some easement or some type of property to be able to navigate throughout that entire area in the future for the area, for the, where the DPW property sits, eventually be developed.
Again, my recommendation would be for any development that happens in close proximity to the downtown, and especially on property that we have control of, is that the city always have a conversation with the developer with the idea of promoting a river walk that would connect Eagles Wooden Park to the Mill Pond Park, I call it KSG Park. So the gazebo to that two parks. I just think it'd be a really nice amenity. At some point, you would probably need to work with the state on having a bridge that goes over the river, you know, down near Eagles Wooden Park, or wherever makes the most sense.
so would that, I mean, would our role be to advocate for the DPW to move so that that land would be available, so that the city can start to market it to some developer? Because right now, I think we're using it, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Well, that's if the opportunity comes up for the DPW to move. My point is, whenever a development occurs in those areas, encourage the city to lead that discussion of like, here's what we would like to see, and then work with the developer to see if, you know, you can come to an agreement. Obviously, it takes a partnership to do those kinds of things, but I just think it should be memorialized somewhere in a document, so that everybody understands that is a goal, and I think it is on some of our.
I think it's in the
land
master
use.
plan, potentially
So,
even in the parks plan, yes.
But that should be front of mind for this board as well, just again to be an advocate for those kinds of things, because people forget, things fall through the crack, and the more people that are pushing an idea, I think the better chance it has.
So that sort of speaks to our connection with the planning commission. We should keep an eye on projects coming in, make sure that they're incorporating pathways where appropriate, parks where appropriate, parks and green space where appropriate.
Like there was something in here where it had the different groups that would be part of, the projects within the master plan.
So, Mike, do you wanna keep moving down, like if we,
Yeah, I
we
did.
went over development,
I
and
scanned
then
down.
cooperation, it says
So-
promote cooperation between all groups, individuals, organizations, neighboring communities that are involved with recreation planning for areas.
Seemed like we're touching those.
Yeah. Yep.
The next one was an area I thought that we could do something, and we don't, where I walk by the mill pond pretty much every day, different times of day sometimes. And with my industrial engineering background, it just makes sense that why don't I look to see how many people are using the park and how they're using the park. The other night, Kelly and I were down there, man, there was like at least a dozen people fishing, and they all just seem to be having the best time. So monitor and conduct surveys of park usage to understand and accommodate the diverse needs. So I thought, well, we don't, but maybe it could be a thing that we could encourage each of us when we're in the parks to know, and maybe even set up some assignments. Like maybe none of us have kids that go to the wooden park, but you probably do. But Yeah, but somehow to divvy it up so that we're all watching the different parts and
Well,
trying to
maybe
get a
it's
feel
something
for
that
what
you-
do we see.
Incorporate in your events, you know, if you have some surveys and maybe just poll some people and things like that, you know, how are you utilizing the parks, you know, kind of those types of situations, you know.
Well, it's like even like, we had like that sign thing in the wooden park, that's just like really old and grimy, like nobody, like there's some flyers in there, but like you can't really use that. Or people go to see the walk, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just, even just walking by the gazebo door.
Another work with entities, which I think we're trying to do, oh, the development of a dog park for the residents.
So.
Want to vote on that?
I mean, there is this, the Thompson Road Regional Dog Park, and, I think that position is vacant, I think. We've had a hard time keeping an individual on that board just because of, I think, logistically and all the things, but, we still get updates periodically. I know Southern Lakes Parks and Rec has representatives on that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but, so I feel like that's kind of our liaison to that, as well, but, we're still, I mean,
Yeah, so to serve our residents, that's close enough that we would call it good, that we don't need to chunk out an area by the cemetery and let dogs run wild.
right, no, I think that was the goal with it, is that it's more of a regional effort, it's in the township, it's a larger area, things like that, and so people who wanna use those, utilize those types of amenities, it's there, it's available to them, and stuff, so. I do know that there's never been any agreement that's ever been more, like, in black and white, it's been talked about, it's never been approved by any of the entities involved that I'm aware of, that I've been able to see, but, I mean, we're still engaged, like I said, to a degree, and I feel like through our partnership with Southern Lakes Parks and Rec, and I feel like they've kind of taken on a more active role too with the dog park, in the past couple of years, so.
But is that something like, like if they post on their Facebook page, would we be sharing that stuff on our Facebook page
Absolutely,
to like promote?
yeah.
And does it cost money? Like, we get a resident, instead of being non-resident fee, it would be a resident fee, so there's some sort of discount, or does it cost money?
I don't, there's no fee,
I think it's.
Not
it's
even-
just an
it's
area
dog
that's
walking.
specific for dogs and things like that,
And so-
there's no fee.
Is it Southern Lakes Park and Rec sort of owns and runs it, or is it Fenton Township?
At Fenton Township, I think, but I feel like, and I don't wanna speak for them, but I do feel like this is where Southern Lakes has been trying to take more of an active role in that, and the management of it or something, so.
We've partnered with them also and delivered, they'll call us occasionally for a load of wood chips and stuff that we have brought over to them. We haven't got that call this year, but, over the past few years, we've delivered that mulch for them, so that's a foot in the door.
Yeah, well, and maybe this is your conversation, just so, maybe we're already hitting a lot of these benchmarks that you guys don't even know about, like us obviously taking wood chips over and stuff like that. We are contributing and staying engaged in that.
Okay. It's like, yeah, that's fine, that's fine.
No.
And the
Just keep going
position's
through it on my
open
phone,
there.
'cause I don't have to do it.
The next one up, study in conjunction with the Linden schools utilizing facilities to meet needs of area residents. And I sometimes, I joined this thing because of Parks and Rec, but it's Parks and Rec. So Rec is in there too, and we have that beautiful multi-purpose building with a lot of recreational opportunities. So I guess it does make sense that we ought to be thinking,
There is a lot
what
of
could we
kids
do
that
to
I've
encourage
noticed.
something there?
There is a lot of kids I've noticed in the summer that will go to like Hyatt and play on the playground, or even the new playground for the younger kids with the early education.
Mhm.
There's usually kids playing in there in the evenings, and definitely at the schools, at Linden and Hyatt.
And through LOSI, we hosted senior winter games there, so we had our walking event there and, pickleball. I think we hosted pickleball there this year. So we are, and that's at the multipurpose center, so we are utilizing them, through that LOSI connection. And I know that, they're probably willing to partner in other capacities.
Maybe like the
Yeah.
Fago event, maybe they could call us in to help. Maybe that'd be a good way for us just to start to experience doing it, working on an event out there.
Yeah, hosting an event.
Yeah, absolutely.
Common goals with neighboring municipalities.
Southern, I mean, I feel like Southern Lakes Parks and Rec, the pathway right there is a good collaboration that shows that Benton Township, Southern Lakes, Benton City, yeah, concerts in the park, you guys hosted the kite event in Genesee, you know, you guys have been engaging them also as well in a lot of your different events and stuff, and so, again, this goes back to Genesee District Library, so you're tapping into those, yeah. And going back to promoting their, you know, the fellow neighbors as well,
Yep.
and their efforts as well.
You have a question?
Well, no, I do, like, just, I feel like that there's a lack of communication about, like, in between groups as to how we are truly impacting the objectives here, you know, when it may be wood chips, but we don't know about it here. Because it does seem like there's a lot that we're meeting that we don't even realize how we're collaborating.
And I think that's to Erin's point, that this is a broad umbrella, and there's a lot of different people that are involved in this, it
Yeah.
isn't just single-handedly you all, so.
I guess I look at this too, like, from a teacher brain, like, we get state standards that we have to follow, and they're often in very kind of general, idealistic language that can be hard to like distill down. And it's like, kind of looked at like, what's the gist of this? And are we doing our little part where we can to meet that? But like, in theory, this is the responsibility of the whole city. So like, we might be touching on this, but then the other, like, LoC's touching on part of it. City events are, like, the city's running events that are part of it. I don't think it's just us, but, yeah.
So how do we go about showing that we are meeting the objectives? And because you said we're gonna end up, you know, working on a new master plan, putting forth that, you know, we have met these objectives based on our little portion of it to show where we're going.
I mean, I think that that's something that we could work on, in-house, and just literally going down the list and listing out all of those things that we're already accomplishing and things. And if there's another group that's maybe already accomplishing that or touching on that, or maybe it's a staff thing, you know, so I feel like that could easily be assembled.
So I'm an engineer, so I think weird. But my thought on the dog park one was, I mean, it's a park thing and we're asked to support it, so wouldn't it be right for us to name one of us to be that person? That's the liaison between the city and the dog park. And likewise with Laugh Pathways. I mean, it's a big organization doing a lot of stuff, but we don't have a finger on the pulse. But should one of us, like maybe have a dog owner, work with the dog park people, and I love to bike, so maybe I would be the person to go
I mean, Chester would love
to the Laugh Pathway.
I mean, absolutely, and I think that that's how you know, having a representative like that, that's, you know, can bring back that information, you know, that's key.
Larry had a comment, I'm sorry.
I'm kinda under the theory, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So do we need somebody on the dog park portion of it? If they are successful with the dog park, they are running it efficiently, unless someone wants to step into that role. But I don't think we need to have our fingers in all the pot, we just need to have our fingers efficiently in the pot. There are only 2, 4, 6, 7 of us sitting in the room, and to look at these objectives, come on, okay? But a lot of it we cross-do by me communicating with LoCi tomorrow about the kayak thing that's using another organization. So we do a lot of it unconsciously. We kind of draw this in. My point is, we don't need to be into everything. I feel we don't need to be into everything. The things we are into, we just need to be good at. Or be willing to change it to make it a good event.
I would agree 100%. But if this is in the 2027 to 2032, whatever the next Parks and Rec plan, if that statement's in there,
We have to show.
I probably would say, I think we ought to put somebody on
The thing is, like, if one of us is willing to do it,
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I think
Exactly,
Because
yes.
one person is not, like, doesn't wanna do it, but
I'm-
again, there's like other things that we,
I'm not saying specifically the dogs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm a dog owner.
right,
So I wouldn't mind doing that. I'm just saying that if the park is running without our help, okay, let's let the park run without our help, and let's worry about getting people to the bats.
Then I would say next year, let's take that out.
or that's
Okay.
another good way to figure out information, so we know.
We just should have to show how we are meeting the
Well,
goals.
How we're
It has
grading.
to be.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
so, really quick, I think, maybe take a step back. This is a guide. This is not an absolute checklist, right? So, use it to guide you guys in some of the decision-making, use it to guide, the city uses it to guide. This is also a tool for us to be able to get grants. For us to be eligible for certain grants, we have to have an active and eligible Parks and Recreation plan, right? Obviously, there's a lot of things that change as you move through, like, maybe stuff doesn't, in here doesn't really apply, and maybe that objective stays in there, but you're saying, this is sitting idle for this reason at this point, right? So maybe look at it in that capacity, that it's necessarily a guide, and you don't have to be checking off every single thing and making sure that you have your pulse on every single thing.
Correct.
And,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And some of these will stay on here for decades, quite honestly.
Yes.
And a lot of plans have them. It's certainly a goal.
Sure.
I have a goal of climbing Mount Everest. It's probably not gonna happen for me at this point, but it's just one of those things you aspire for. And then if a funding opportunity comes up, it's great to have this down in writing. And I can give an example. Sometimes affluent residents pass, and they have money available, and they're into biking. They're like really into biking. And in order for the family to be comfortable to find an organization or a community that's like, okay, we wanna donate this $10,000 to somebody that's serious about biking, it's nice to have that documented here, so that they can see clearly that it's one of your goals. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to accomplish it yet because we haven't had the finances to do it, but it's certainly one of our goals. So treat it less like you gotta check all the boxes here before you move on to the next one. A lot of this just goes with you into the next one, and then if the sense of the community has changed in this previous 5 years, you add new ones or take off old ones, like, hey, we've got a dog park next door now, we no longer need to do that, so I think that's a better way to look at it than just trying to knock them all out,
I think where some of us are coming from, it's, we don't have all that information, right? We're not really understanding what else is going on behind the scenes. So when we had our meeting in September, we all felt like we're not doing enough, because we don't have all that background information where we know we're actually hitting a lot of those objectives, or at least have an idea for those objectives.
I think, I don't know, I think I maybe look at it slightly differently. Like, I agree with that totally at that meeting. But for me, it's like, I feel like as Parks and Rec, we may only actively do 20% of these, 30%, 40%. And beyond those, the rest of them are not this body's concern, because we are just one tentacle in the beast. Like, we're not, these are other people's responsibilities. These are the Parks and Rec plans, but we're not actually we're like a unique body. We're not like the managers of the Parks Department. Like, we're not the Parks Department. Like, that falls under DPW and the city at large, not us. So I guess I look at it for me, what is helpful to know, and I am understanding them now more as we're going through them and discussing them, it's like, okay, here are the 15 of these that we actually physically, mentally have jurisdiction over. We do those things. And the rest of them, maybe we can help with. And I also, along the lines of ones that we can help with, one thing that I could do personally as a person on the planning commission is I could bring a quick recap from the previous planning commission meeting back, and then in commissioner reports or wherever it is on our agenda here, say, hey, somebody presented an idea for a new property that they want to develop, and you know, one of the things that's being required or looked into is that they have to provide, certain open space in the development. So just keep an eye out that that might be coming down the line when they develop that, and we're trying to encourage them to, you know, establish an open space, but.
Mike, can I say something?
Sure.
You know, I agree with everything that's said here. They're overwhelming, okay? But I think, I don't think they're all our responsibility, and I'll use this example. The DPW fixed the peaks and painted the peaks at Linden Park. That was an improvement that we had nothing to do with, yet it accomplished the goal in here. They also put the leftover road and paved the area back there and made it look nice. It does look good, and it was a good use of the, I hope we didn't get charged too much for the hall at the block, but, you know.
It was free.
So that was done through other people. So a lot of these goals, basically what I'm saying, are accomplished not necessarily by us, but by other entities. You know, this is not just, I don't look at this as just a Parks and Rec, this is your responsibility. No, it's everybody that works or sits on a commission's responsibility. So the DPW did part of the work, they improved the parks, okay? When we look around the city and we're driving around and we see a lot of land, will that work for Parks and Rec? You know, it's always going through. There's a beautiful lot for sale right off of Ripley, right before the bridge on the left-hand side. It's right on the river. But how could we afford it? You know what I'm saying? In some of them, I feel that way. To acquire property, how can we afford that? There are other issues with the city financially that need to be dealt with before we buy lakefront property. I don't think too many people in the city would be too happy about that. But a lot of the goals are accomplished through other entities in the city.
I agree. The only thing, I agree that it looks overwhelming, and I think it's an unfortunate side effect of the way it's written. It's written in a way that it's grouped into bunches where they're forced to repeat themselves over and over and over. So every one of these bunches has basically the same objectives in it, if you were to go through and read them. So what I did was I pulled out the objectives and I sorted them by category of focus. And there's only like 6. There's only 6 or 7 things in here that they're asking us to look at. Land, facilities, partnering with organizations, pathways, and programming. So it's not like they're asking us to do a bazillion things. They just wrote it down in a way that makes it look that way. So it's just unfortunate. And that's maybe a thing that we can fix in the next draft to make this something that we can look at and understand. Because nobody can look at this.
And we want the guidance. We want to be pointed in the right direction.
Because we were told in the meeting, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And we still don't know what that means. Yes, Liz.
That's where the confusion came from, because we're like, okay, but what are we actually supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna ask a quick question. The Parks and Rec plan has to look kind of like it looks though, because of the grant funding that is also equally achieved through it, correct? So it's not just that you're putting all this stuff down and, you know, we are supposed to be figuring out, it needs to be carefully crafted so that way it can also equally serve multiple purposes.
Yes, because they have to see that it's gonna hit specific goal areas or objectives. To your point, Mike, though, there could potentially be in the back, basically like a summary that kind of like simplifies it or something like that, but yes, so absolutely, Liz, it brings up a valid point that a lot of these Parks and Rec plans are very similar in nature. Content is different, but the layout, yeah, no, you're right.
But just they contain things that in case an opportunity arises, yes, it's in our plan,
Cast a
please
wide
give
net.
us the grant money.
That's
Cast a
it.
wide net.
And I think that's why it feels overwhelming.
And
But
that's
it's
why
all towards the benefit of the just in case, or the future projects, or the vision that we are hoping to obtain at some point.
Which brings us back to, this can't be waved at us and said, this is what you're supposed to be doing, because it isn't. So we're right back to where we started 6 to 8 months ago, is
Oh, no, I didn't mean to do that.
our mission, our purpose. It's probably in here, but it's just lost with the other things that we aren't supposed to be doing. That's my fear anyway.
If I have a couple minutes, I can update the board on a few things that, sometimes we assume you're familiar with things that maybe you are not, and so, for example, now I've moved on to the action program, where they have it,
It's not in your packet, it's in the actual plan.
it's in the plan, yeah, following.
I think it actually was in the packet. It followed the goals and the.
And basically, it just goes through it, and I think what they did is they tried to prioritize it to some degree, based on importance in the year. So if I start on year one and we look at, the sidewalk pathway improvements along South Bridge Street, that's something that can happen as opportunities come up, If I'm not mistaken, there is a connection to the county trail all the way down South Bridge, right? You have to jump back and forth,
Mhm.
but
You can get there.
you can get there from here.
Mhm.
We did make, in the next box, we did make playscape improvements. I mentioned previously the ADA safety surfacing, and we always go in and we make improvements to the boardwalk as we see them. We do have some trip hazards and stuff in there that it's on our to-do list to try to get addressed. Kimball Sharp Gazebo Park, we put up the new fencing around the dam area, so that's been taken care of. We repaved the walkway all the way across there, which also checks the box of ADA improvements. The amphitheater and gazebo improvement is gonna be happening in the next month and a half here. You're all familiar with the State Bank Trail construction. The last one down there, bike racks, benches, and trash. Several years ago, we got new trash cans along the Mill Pond walkway there. And the DDA is funding new benches for some of the benches that are in rough shape along that section now. We just met with them last week. They've sort of given us the go-ahead on proceeding with that, so we'll get those benches replaced. The goal there is, we're gonna pull out the ones that are anchored in the ground. We're gonna pour concrete pads. This is on the maintenance side, so you don't have to weed eat around them and all that kind of stuff. We're gonna pour concrete pads, and then we'll anchor them to that pad so they don't end up in the pond. But we'll be taking care of that. The the bike racks, trash cans, those things on the planning commission side are included in developments when appropriate. So the Wax building had to install a bike rack. The mill building, when it's complete, we will install a new bike rack. Trash cans will be included. So those things sort of happen organically in the development process. So just wanted to sort of bring you up to speed on those. Again, assuming that everybody knows that those things have happened, but not necessarily so.
A lot of times that's in Don's DPW report that he does monthly for the council and things like that as well, so.
I think early on, I think we had invited Don to come to every meeting, but it really was not a good use of Don's time.
Right. I came for a while, and I think it's appropriate for the DPW to be when you're talking about infrastructure and those kinds of things. The activities and stuff, we really don't have a hand in, so.
All right, so we could pick up where we left off, but I'm definitely getting the feeling of, we're doing a good job with programs, we're doing a good job with partnering with the communities and organizations to present those programs, and that's sort of the role we're doing, and it sounds like you're satisfied with us fulfilling the role.
Absolutely, and I don't know, sorry, I got late, but, I don't know that we were ever, I think the goal of our previous meetings and things like that were to bring all of the different recreation boards or people, or individuals that are involved with recreation, whether it's LOSI, whether it's GDL, whether it's happening in Linden, Larry's got a connection with happening in Linden. you know, the mayor was sitting on Southern Lakes and things like that, so kind of bringing them all together and just more collaboration than anything and stuff, so, no, I think that you guys have done a significant amount of work in moving these goals and objectives along, definitely.
Does anyone wanna keep going through the objectives?
I think we're clear, I think we're doing what we should be doing.
I mean, at any point, you guys, like, this is, if you guys feel.
framework.
Yeah, it's just a framework, absolutely, that's a perfect perfect word for it.
I think our main concern is getting ready for next master plan. To make
Yep.
sure we're ready to go for next master.
The Parks and Rec plan, yep, and that's a process that involves so many different entities, but you guys could help be an advocate to getting the word out and get, you know, facilitating those meetings, obviously working with Adam or, you know, to get the plan updated, but taking back exactly what you're saying, you know, if it feels overwhelming, or like Mike saying, like some of the structure of it, those are conversations to have with them.
So is Adam the one that does this, or are we the ones that put this together, this 5-year plan?
Adam does it with input from,
Oh,
this board, as well as the public and stuff like that,
Okay.
so.
Just a random thought, if we're gonna, maybe at the end of this, you know, like the September event, the Christmas parade, things like that, utilizing the QR code, having Parks and Rec out there with a QR code, get it out, get it flashy, so that you guys can start getting that input now from the residents. How long of a span can they get it and it be used for? How long can a survey like that be open?
I mean, I'm trying to remember what we did for the previous Parks and Rec plan and our master plan, and I apologize,
It's good through 27, right?
yeah, this plan is
So we-
good through
we evolved
27.
this year.
But you're gonna wanna start, I feel like you're gonna wanna start, you know, and have something adopted by the end of 27, so you can go into 28 with it. So I feel like next year, when you guys do your programming and stuff, that'll be a great time for you to hit them with the surveys, with the input. You would obviously host, meetings outside of just your events and stuff like that, but utilizing those events to do that. And you guys can bring Adam in at any point, and have him give us a guide as to how this is gonna go and start developing what that's gonna look like moving forward.
It seemed like this is like the second, this will be the third one I've been involved in, I think.
Yeah,
And, this last one seemed really rushed and fast and it was done. So, yeah, I think getting an earlier start on it, and
was it on the heels of COVID, like
it was in
22?
COVID, yeah.
Because I feel like we had to do virtual
I think it was
meetings.
the first year I started, which was, I think, 20.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
maybe.
I remember it being very.
It was weird, it was
awkward.
a weird one, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to do a more thoughtful job this time, I think. Any more discussion on that before we move on to Larry's item, which I guess we'll table for the moment? Anything?
We lost him.
I think you must have left it.
Roll up.
Yeah,
He
he
must
must
have-
have down, or he's got the top
Oh,
off of
it-
his new Jeep.
Oh,
So
right,
under-
that's the one that it was, yeah.
So under new business, we have, this is something that Kristen asked about, I think. To get a Sign Up Genius account for the city so that we can do better, you know, surveys and better who's coming to this event kind of things. But then it was like there's different levels
He's
of,
locked out, I think.
oh, there's different levels of signing up. So we're hoping that you're like the expert, Aaron.
Yeah.
I don't think I would go that far.
Oh my gosh, now he's up there. He's, well,
Yeah,
So
I
if
think,
everyone on TV could maybe hold on a minute.
Oh, gosh.
Ellen was going down to get you down there.
I figured I'd come down here, I needed a shower.
Wowie.
I left the roof off my damn truck.
Oh.
It's all right, I only got 5 more years of paperwork, no
All
problem.
right, just need a little shower.
Oh, gosh. Are we done
I
with the
apologize.
objectives? Objectives?
Yes, we were gonna ask you about the Shiawassee River Shuttle.
Okay.
I'm gonna table yours.
no, that's fine.
Well, now that I'm all washed up, never mind. I think that we should consider, giving Sarah financial remuneration for her donated time. And I feel that she gives up a day's rent of her kayaks for us. She supplies all the supplies. We did not need to bring anything other than a piece of paper and a pencil. She supplies the life jackets, the boats. She's a huge advocate for the waterways, so that accomplishes one of our goals that we were just talking about.
Right.
And she's at the Keepers of the Shiawassee. She's really into the feel of the town. She's a good reference for that. I'm cold, sorry. But mostly, the most important thing is she assumes all the insurance liability. So I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm shivering, I'm actually shivering. I don't know, Ellen, if we had this kayak, if the city would assume the liability, if they are willing to do that.
Well, so we have general liability policy that covers us for Parks and Rec events and things like that. Obviously, if it was something like that capacity, we would let our insurance company know that we're hosting a, you know, we're assuming the liability and stuff on that and just let them know in advance. I certainly think that's something that you guys could propose to be budgeted for next year, is that there's compensation for, you know, the Shiawassee River Shuttle. We just need to have an idea of how much that cost would be, or what you guys are, you know, so
Could it come out of the Park and Rec funds
Yep.
this year?
well,
Is there any left? I mean, I don't know how that works.
I think she should be reimbursed. If we're having 2 events, we should reimburse her for every event we have. That makes sure that she will, we can retain her services.
Karen?
I get that in concept, but my concern is that I feel like whatever system we have has to be a consistent system across all potential vendors and not just a one-off. So like, if we move forward to next year, I personally think that looking backward, I don't know how you would do that, because the concern I would have is that it looks like if we worked with other organizations, like, we know that some of them have fee structures, right? Like, what is it, the one we talked about, the owls?
I'm paying money for bats, I paid money for owls, I paid money for birds.
So what I would rather see happen is for 2027 is ask Sarah to establish a fee structure for that and say, what is the proper compensation? And then set it up that way so it is not specifically providing reimbursement for Sarah, who very much, that she's done a lot for us, no doubt about it. But just from the, like, not even literal liability maybe, but just the liability of image of like, well, we're just kind of arbitrarily paying this group, but not this group. I'd rather see it ahead of time, like, this is what she requested, just like the bird, or the owl people, all them, and then we agree to that, it's written out. That would be my,
Well, as Mike said, he does pay
right.
some groups. She also brings the supplies that we need. So let's talk about kites. How much was that event? Approximately, you know,
less than $150.
oh, less than $150. How much was rock painting? $50. And you haven't done yours yet?
$100.
$100 for yours, for bats? I mean,
Yeah.
so every event costs us, and every event we have to bring some sort of supply, whatever that is. It appears that the average is $75 to $100. I did actually talk to Sarah, and I suggested an amount, and she's agreeable to it, $100 an event, and that's not really that out of order with what we got here for what we're getting.
I agree, but to Aaron's point, we can't look like we're picking a business.
Well, she is a local business and she does support our waterways greatly. So it's not just that we're picking a business, we're picking a business that supports our community. You know, and we have to pick somebody. You know, somebody has to fall into the role. And if we don't use Sarah, who do we use? And I'm sure that they're gonna set a rate fee. They're not gonna do it for free like Sarah does it. You know, I mean, she was there at 10 o'clock in the morning to set up. We didn't open till 12. That's the reason why we opened, or we started a little bit early, because I figured if people are asking, why not?
So could we establish a fee structure for per event, and then that amount is used however, to either get materials, whatever it is, pay, I don't know, I guess vendor, whatever you would call it in that capacity, but.
How was it done in the past? Mike, how did you come up with the money to pay for bands?
The city pays. I call the city and say, hey, I wanna do this bat event, it costs this much. Actually, for the bat one, GDL's paying for it, so that's coming out of county money. So the city's not even paying for bats, but the city did pay for owls and birding. And I just went through the city, this is what it's gonna cost to do this event, and I talked to Kristen and, you know, the treasurer and everybody. They paid it. Yes?
All right, so the question I have is, what is the total budget for Parks and Rec
So,
events?
yep, we don't have a specific line item for Parks and Rec events. We have, parks, and this up, like, for instance.
Cause I thought earlier this year I had heard an amount that, you know, and we needed to try to stay within this parameter.
I think it was 1,500,
Yeah,
is that we've
For some
identified.
reason,
But
15
what,
hundred.
yeah, it does to me too.
what we would like, cause we have like, beautification is called out separately in the
Okay,
budget.
yeah.
In parks, it's just parks, right? So you guys are kind of lumped in with everything else. But what we could do, moving into next year, is establish just a parks, you know, line item for events and things like that. And know going into next year, approximately how much each of those events are gonna cost, whether it's supplies for kites, whether it's cost for Shiawassee River Shuttle. I don't think there's any issue, and anyone questions at all paying Sarah for her services and stuff like that. I think it's knowing in advance. She committed to doing it for free in advance, is the way I understand it, for the Memorial Day and things like that. I think going into the other events, you guys knew that there was gonna be some small fees and things like that included, or things like that. So I don't think that there's any issue with doing that. I think it's just knowing in advance. So for September, if she's gonna be hosting that event, have her get us something, and I think that we can start there. I think for next year, what should happen is before, so you'll have a meeting in November, September, when would your next meetings be? When yours, your second?
Yeah, 2 months.
Start
Go ahead.
prepping, you know, like, what do you think is your net, you know, your budget gonna be, look like for next year? Be like, hey, Ellen, hey, Brooke, we wanna make sure that this is budgeted for these parks events, please. We think we're gonna need $150 for the bat event. We think we're gonna need $150 for the knit-a-thon. So I think that's perfectly fine, and we do have money built into the budget that we could, you know, if there's supplies that are associated with it, you guys got some t-shirts and things like that, yes. I think the difference with Sarah specifically was that she volunteered to do it for free for the Memorial Day, and to Aaron's point, retroactively going back and doing something now, but I think if she wants to do something or charge a fee, for the September, it's understandable. And if you're organizing it that, Larry, then bring it back to the board and say, this is what she wants to charge us for that amount.
I never said to pay her for the last event. I
Oh,
was talking
okay,
about,
okay.
yeah, so let's get
Oh,
that
I
out of the way.
apologize.
No,
I
no,
understood that you
know.
wanted to go back and pay for the,
Yeah,
okay,
sorry for
okay.
that misunderstanding. And then you said, have Sarah give me, what do you wanna see from Sarah?
You just invoice, I mean, that's
Yeah, some
fine.
kind of invoice, yeah. It could
Okay.
be-
A napkin with a number on it.
Okay, all right, I'm not sure, but I can get it.
Yeah, just a proposal or a quote or just something.
Well,
Yeah, it would be a quote,
Okay,
yeah.
Typically, no, everybody, we're all cognizant we're spending city funds, so we're careful. But no, we haven't voted on the amounts. If you come back with a very high amount, something that sort of stands out, everyone, I think you should bring it to us, but
I was for the $100 range.
for
Yeah,
$100, I would.
We
just-
understand that there's gonna be
We're
like, I don't
just
wanna say
getting-
incidentals, but there's gonna be, you know, supplies and things like that for the Parks and Rec
Mhm.
and the events that you guys are doing, and absolutely, so. But we can spell it out so it's much more clear next year for everyone involved. You know, I don't think we wanna make it too complicated, but I think the Parks and Rec board identifying, hey, these are the events, here's what we think it's gonna cost us for a budget, we can make sure that that's,
I think
Built
that's
in.
reasonable.
yeah. We do that something similar with beautification, and I don't know why beautification is called out separately, we're Parks and Recs events, and, but for the longest time, they were doing more maintenance type stuff, so that's probably why.
So just get a quote and
Yeah.
give it to the Kristen or Ellen.
Yeah, Kristen has signed it, and then she can get it to the respective people.
Very good.
Like
Yeah.
immediately, or do I wait till the event?
No, I would do it, I mean, just,
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, you
I
guys.
got tomorrow off.
yeah, I would do it in advance, yeah, there you
I
go.
usually notify them in advance, and
Yeah.
after the event is over, she would submit an invoice, and then she would get paid.
Are we agreed upon the $100 then?
Well, we
I don't want her to, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I don't want her to submit something and you guys kick it back.
We
We're gonna
won't,
vote on
we
that.
shouldn't even hear about it, if it's $100.
Oh, okay, all right, all right.
Well, like you guys, I mean, like there's, we've paid for signage, we've paid for
Right.
t-shirts, we've paid for, you know, so there's,
It would be nice to actually. to
listen,
have-
if I think for any reason that it's unreasonable, Larry, I will, between myself and the treasurer, will say something, but I don't see there being an issue there,
All right.
yeah.
I think it'd be better for all of us too, if we knew, so if we know like next year's budget, just to make it simple, let's say it's $1,200 and there's 6 events over the time period, and you know that there's roughly $200 allocated each event, because then it gets into things like too, where maybe my fishing event, whatever, only costs $60, but maybe then we can think a little bit bigger about like,
Mhm.
hey, we have more money to work with, would it be nice to have it where, the kids, like when we actually did the actual fishing event, Judy brought in her printer and used all of her own ink to print these photos for the kids, and we made little booklets of the fish that they had caught out in the milk line. But like, you can kind of think bigger if you realize, oh, my basic materials are only $60, but I'm allocated another 140, how can we make this, maybe there's something we can do to make this a better event?
Hot dogs.
Right,
Always.
always hot dogs. So, okay.
All right, so any other discussion on that before we move on?
No?
Okay, that brings us back to the Sign Up Genius account details. I don't know if you're aware of what level of an account you think would be best for us to sign up for?
Something that could easily be shared with like QR code.
Well, one of the issues with the one that we ran, the free version, you don't get any back-end data on it, which isn't necessarily a big deal, but you don't get, so like, once you've done it, it's done. And you're all off of one email address. So one of the challenges we ran into was that like, Heidi and I was kind of helping Heidi out with the kite event, but like Heidi couldn't access as a administrator the Sign Up Genius from her end because her email wasn't my email.
Why couldn't we just utilize Google Forms? And then
Well-
you guys can have access to the back end of it.
Perhaps, the one issue and maybe you can, the one challenge I wasn't sure about with Google Forms was if you can set it up such that different registrants can see like slots and who's already filled in those slots. Like, so say you set up 8 time slots, can I as a resident see, oh, there's already 7 filled up, I better get that last one? Is there a way, because that's the benefit of,
I think there is, and I think there's a way that you can, like if they would go to register, it would say class full.
but would it say
I
like
don't-
what the individual slots are and who's already in them? Because like what was kind of nice was that like some of the people found other people that they were friends with and were like, oh, I can be with this grouping of 4 people because they see their names. But I wouldn't have an issue even using Google Forms as a dry run. And then, I mean, I know, because that's free, right?
Yeah, next
And then see if that meets the needs.
right, I feel like you can manipulate it.
I'm just not familiar with how.
Okay,
Can we try it maybe for the Little Explorer with the library outing? Maybe see if we can get it to work for that.
And is Google Forms easy for people that, because like our work and everything is completely in the Google world. But for people who don't use Google for their email or anything else, is it still pretty easy to navigate?
I feel like it is, I'm not a
Okay.
Google user, you know, my kids obviously, and then the schools and stuff like
Right.
that, but then, I have kind of forced myself to get a little bit more familiar with it, because I'm like, man, it does do quite a bit, and it is free, so I do feel like that it is pretty user friendly.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just like, I'm so used to Microsoft, or I'm so used to whatever, you know, whatever. but-
I actually can ask Elaine, my wife, because she does, like part of her actual job
Yeah.
is Google Analytics on the back end.
And how, what did she Does she?
I didn't ask her about it,
Oh, you didn't ask her?
but I could.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe we can have her help us.
Yeah, maybe, let's explore that
Yeah.
for the August one.
Why don't we try it, and then if you guys, you
I'll
know-
think around, I'll make a note to check it out and see.
Yeah.
I too have tomorrow off,
All right.
and the
Oh, yeah,
next
the
day,
Wanna do lunch?
and the next day, and the next day.
He's got the whole summer.
I'm-
Oh, he's a teacher, that's right, dang it.
I know, us lucky teacher.
If we're good with that one, the next item up is a photo release form, and this is because I believe we have these events, we take pictures of kids having a great time, then we're like, can we put that on our Facebook pages? Because I know my kids do not want their child on social media, where strangers can see them. And then my niece is the same way, and then I have 2 nieces that are the same way.
So, yeah, we talked about this, but public spaces and, it's gonna be hard for us to track. And it's public spaces, and so at that point, I mean, what was the conversation?
Well, I mean,
It's like-
the theory is there's no expectation of privacy in public space, so, we've came across situations where people videotape employees come into facilities and all that, and we get our police involved and there's literally nothing we can do about it. So, I'm not sure how you would handle this, quite honestly. You would, if you're taking a photo, you'd have to try to capture everyone that's in that particular photo. I've done this with my organization, outside of the city, where if I'm in a private facility and I'm taking a photo, a close-up photo of a specific child or parent of the child, I would ask permission to utilize the, social media for promotional reasons, but I don't know as far as a public space. So I'm not sure how
We
you,
can, yeah.
what do you guys do in schools and everything?
In schools, at the beginning of the year, they have a photo release form. That basically, I believe it's an opt-out form. I think the default is you're opted in unless you, when you register your kiddo, you say out. But, so are you saying that we don't need it, or you're saying, but my concern is like, so let's say you get verbal permission, but then 5 weeks down the road, you're using that as a promotional thing and the parent says, well, you didn't have my permission, and there's no, like, does it hurt to have that type of form? Does it not have any legality? Is
I
that-
don't think it hurts to have it, but who's gonna manage it, to Ellen's point? Like, are you gonna assign somebody, hey, you walk around with these forms and whenever we snap a picture,
And then
just go up and,
are we gonna remember who Joe Smith is? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many different people that are, okay.
What about when they, use Google whatever, or the sign up Genius on the bottom as part of it? Check the box.
The problem is,
If you don't give permission, as part of that, if
Yeah.
you don't give permission, you must come to a member, do you understand, to do the form. You put all the requirements on them, because then you've kind of cleared yourself off, because you told them, if you don't want your kid photographed, check this box, and then you have to come.
Like, for instance.
Let's say the bad event, then they gotta come find Mike, and they've gotta get the form, and they've gotta fill the form out, and then they've gotta make sure that they keep their kid. It's gotta be their responsibility, I guess, because otherwise there is no way. I mean, you guys aren't on every event, staff is not at every event.
Or could we just put a disclaimer at the bottom that says, photos will be taken at this event that may be made public?
yes.
You certainly
that's an
can.
attorney question.
Yes, and that's a true. But for instance, last night, me and my family were down at the Music by the Mill, and Southern Lakes was videoing and taking pictures, and they were posted.
Yeah.
There was no photo releases in that. They were on public property, they were in a public space, they were at a public event, and all of those things. So, I can check with the attorney. You can put a disclaimer probably on your advertisement. To the mayor's point, you could probably do something like that. I think the challenge is like, again, tracking, but.
I I guess the only thing I would like to know then from the attorney would be, is if it is a clear cut that you're at a city event, like, to me, it makes perfect sense, like, common sense wise, like, you are in the public arena.
It depends where the event is held. If it's held in somebody's private home, no, you can't take
Well,
pictures.
No,
we don't
but we're
do
not-
that.
But
You're
if
not
it's
doing anything
taken,
anyone's
if
private home.
it's taken in a public venue.
Right, I don't,
It's,
right,
it's the First Amendment, you know, you can't,
but I would just like to hear that or see that from the city
We'll
attorney.
confirm with the attorney.
I think that's the
Well,
right answer
Yeah.
there.
But I agree with you, totally, I know that that is the fact of the case,
I think that,
but I want someone higher up than us to,
I'm a nurse, I'm not a lawyer, I don't wanna get.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I don't wanna
All right.
get the city in any.
Okay,
That's
so
my
we
point.
will get some feedback from the lawyer on that one. That'll be great. And we only have one more thing, sort of. Secretary role discussion.
Oh, I just asked Kristen about it, because at all the meetings I was at, like Kristen was here, or Nicole was here, so I was like, they're familiar with taking notes and putting together the, like meeting minutes, so I thought, well, if they're here and they have to record, they know, they have the format, they know, like, they do it for like every other committee, right? There's a secretary?
We don't do it for library, Parks and Rec, the recommending bodies and stuff like that, staff is typically not doing it, it's designated in the bylaws and in the ordinances and things like that, so I think Kristen shared the format and all that stuff, and she's available for any
Yeah.
assistance that
Yeah,
you
no,
need,
she
but
does help me, I
we
just,
don't staff, Parks and Rec and library board meetings and things like that on a consistent basis, because in the bylaws, it does allow for you guys to designate a chairperson, vice chair, and a secretary,
okay.
so.
Yeah, I just thought that this was the only commission that had a secretary, so I was like, that's kind of weird, just make it consistent, but I didn't know
And
that.
it seemed like pretty regularly they were here and
Yeah.
doing the minutes, so it was kind of weird.
Yeah, that's
So-
what I thought.
Well, they
so I'm like,
were,
might as well throw
we
it out
were,
there.
I think they were here during the phase where we were trying to, go over our Parks and Rec plans, the collaboration piece of it, things like that, transitioning to, so, but historically, I think you guys didn't know that have been on there, typically staff are not always at every Parks and Rec meeting, and things.
Will they
so.
just come and set up the camera then and then leave?
So I'm not sure logistically how that's all gonna work, that's something that, I gotta talk to them about how that is, I mean, obviously, we're here tonight, we're gonna do that for them. I didn't even think to check to see if it's.
Still, yeah, Nikki did come and start.
Yeah, I saw.
They
that
may,
she was here.
they may, take that back from me and not want to do that anymore. But, I can check with them to see how that's gonna be since, they're wanting the recordings done. But our DDA, our zoning board, our planning commission and things like that, those are, bodies that are making decisions that are not, they're not just a recommending body.
Okay,
You
cool, yeah, that's answered my question.
Commissioner reports? Anything to share?
None tonight.
I'm cool.
I'm good.
I have one thing, and Don, it's you. I'm here to tell you, I've been on this for, I don't know how many years. And when we first started, Parks and Rec really didn't do anything. And then DPW really tripped over itself. And we got ourselves into running the community cleanup day every year. We ran that. And then we started doing bench maintenance. And we started getting into other kind of maintenance things. And somewhere around there, you came on board. And DPW sort of pulled themselves back together, started running really, really well. So thank you so much for that. And what that's enabled us to do is to move away from all those things that are just odd for us to do, and to move into things that we really enjoy, which is this programming work that we do. So this whole discussion we had about what are we supposed to be doing, and what are we doing, how do we interact with other people, is only possible to have because of the great job that you've done. So I can't thank you enough for the effort and the work that you've done here, and I just wish you every happiness in your retirement.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Sure.
We'll miss you.
And
Do
with
we know
that,
this?
at
Have you-
7:41,
Oh, okay,
I can
7:41.
conclude our meeting.
All right, I'm out.
What time was it called to order?
6 o'clock.